Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Yanira Villanueva, and on behalf of FIBA, I would like to welcome you to today's FIBA webinar entitled Certificate-Based Authentication to Protect the Financial Industry. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on our latest webinars and all FIBA activities. Be sure to also follow FIBA on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at FIBA_bankers. As we get ready to begin our webcast today, we would like to invite you to attend the upcoming 31st Financial Security Conference, SaaS, on October 3rd through the 4th, 2016 in Miami. The theme for this year's conference is Digital Transformation and Cyber Challenges. This year, our keynote speakers include former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani and author David Stetzel. Also speaking at the conference is today's webinar presenter, Lila Roback. For those attending today's webinar, we have a special rate, and you can actually save $100 by using the discount code FIBA webinar. For more information, please visit www.celaes.com. That's celaes.com. Now, just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Lila Roback. Lila is Global Science Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean. Lila has extensive experience working with financial institutions, identifying and implementing security solutions. Lila is also an expert in identity and access management and was trained at Global Science IAM Center in Finland. Lila has a background in IT, having worked for companies such as IBM and the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. In the past 5 years, Lila has helped in establishing Global Sign as a leader in digital security, as a leader of digital security provider throughout Latin America. Lila, the audience is now yours.
Hi, and it's my pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I would like to incentive you to ask questions along the presentation. If you need any further information, please don't hesitate in contacting us. So let me tell you a little bit about Global Sign. And our theme is identity for everything. Global Sign uses its managed PKI and IAM experience and technology to build high-volume, high-scale identity management solutions for all billions of devices, people, and things that comprise the Internet of Everything. Global Sign is the industry leader in digital security and digital identity services. And I would like to share with you some key information about our company. We started operations in 1996, and we have offices around the whole world. We manage the operations for the Americas from our office that is located in Boston. We do have a network of more than 5,000 partners worldwide, and we offer solutions that include digital certificates, identity and access management, and everything to secure the Internet of Everything, IoE. So we are going to participate of the SaaS conference in Miami, October 3rd and 4th, and I would like to invite you to our keynote, Identity and Access Management, IAM, how strong digital identities can reduce the risks and increase the return of investment for the financial organizations. And I would also like to invite you to visit us at the booth 35. So what are we going to talk about today? We know how important digital security is, especially for the financial industry. In fact, I think that's one of the industries that most manages sensitive information. And with the increased number of online applications and online services, it is essential to implement digital solutions that can help us protect the information of our entities and also of our customers. So during this webinar, we're going to be covering a few topics. The need for stronger use and machine authentication, certificate-based authentication solutions, and how certificate-based authentication works, and a few examples of deployments. So I would like to start with a question. Please answer the poll that is going to pop up at your screen. Are you currently using two-factor authentication inside your organization? Okay, so we have a very divided public. And when I say two-factor authentication, I'm referring to something that is more than just username and password. For example, digital certificate, biometrics, and so on. So now I have a second question. How many of you are using username and password as an authentication method? Oh, wow, that was a straight 100%. Okay. So 98% using username and passwords. So we're going to see during this webinar why companies should start implementing new ways to authenticate the users and how not safe it is to use username and passwords. So a research conducted by the Ponemon Institute shows that the cost of data breaches in the Americas regions is extremely high. Only in the United States, the average cost is $7 million. The two main causes are criminal attacks and human error. The most affected industries are financial, healthcare, and education. So what could companies do in order to prevent the data loss? How can you protect your data? We're going to be answering these questions along this presentation. So the financial industry is extremely sensitive to cyber attacks. We have different users within the organization having access to sensitive information. Loss of data represents loss of reputation, and it can greatly harm the organization. Insights risks by either malicious attempts or the lack of knowledge of your employees. This last one brings us to the fact that the hackers are performing attacks that are robust and hard to identify. If your employees are not trained on the imminent risks, this can represent a huge liability to your organization. So let's start with the current state of things. We have here what I like to call circle of distrust. Between unreliable passwords, users, and devices, there is a lot of room for error. So let's take a look at how each member of the circle can let us down. We have to consider that we find all these members inside your organization. So at the end of the webinar, we're going to have learned why it's important to secure each part of the circle. Because if we leave one of these parts vulnerable, it pretty much can open doors for hackers to enter the organization. And at the end of it, not only you're going to lose reputation, but also you're going to be losing millions of dollars. So as I mentioned, and we all know, financial organizations are managing hundreds of thousands of sensitive information every day. So imagine for a minute what would happen if your customer data ends up in the wrong hands. Well, we know how it ends. How this would actually affect your organization, your current and future business. How would this affect also the image of your company? Well, the results, as we know, can be catastrophic. So the most common type of authentication, as we could see on our poll, continues being single-factor authentication using username and password. The problem is that passwords are notoriously unreliable. So passwords are often the weakest links of the organization. 76% of network intrusions involved weak credentials. Stolen passwords played a role in about half of data breaches that involved hacking. More advanced hacking techniques make relying on passwords increasingly risky. Sniffers, keyloggers, better cracking algorithms, more computer power. For example, last year, within 6 days, over 90% of 6.5 million LinkedIn passwords hashes were cracked. Over 100 million passwords last year were published online. Unfortunately, 63% of organizations worldwide continue to rely on only usernames and passwords. So one of the main reasons is that most of the organizations think that any other type of authentication could represent high cost and a high impact on their transactions. So they would rather continue using username and password. But as we can see, the statistics show us that passwords are not the best options, and they actually leave companies vulnerable to the hackers. Relying on passwords puts a lot of responsibility on your end users. An average person uses 8 passwords and a half per day. It's not surprising that users often resort to reusing passwords or writing them down. So that's a problem. For example, let's suppose a user is using the same password from their personal accounts in their corporate accounts. They are risking without knowing the company's information. Because if this public account is hacked, as we have seen many last year, and the information is stolen, the hackers, they will use this information to try and access their company's accounts. Another issue is controlling the accesses. Username and passwords are easily shared, and we certainly don't want all the employees across the organization having access to the same resources. So for example, a bank teller shouldn't have the same access or permissions as the C-level users. Certificates-based authentication can actually allow the organization to better control the employees' access to these different resources. We're no longer just talking about employees. With the Internet of Things, we are also talking about other players that need to have access to the company resources. In addition to the user authentication, there is a growing need to identify and control devices, machine, desktop, laptop, servers, everything that is part of the Internet of Everything that today could easily access and operate on our network. Rogue machines are both an inside and an outside threat. So employees, they want to use their personal computers, their personal devices. And with the BYOD policy, more and more financial organizations are allowing the employees to connect to the network using the personal devices. The problem is that it may bring malware into your corporate network, besides the fact that you have no control over the security policy that is being used. For example, do they even have an antivirus? Malicious third parties are always looking for an easy access point. For example, wireless access point providing network services to outsiders, computer acting as DHCP server to reroute traffic to a rogue gateway, network sniffers collecting network device information, infected machines that once inside your network will be able to communicate with outside hackers. So we must consider all the risks and remember that we have inside and outside threats. So to recap, we can't rely on passwords anymore. Our users can't be trusted. There is a growing threat of rogue machines, and the cost of data breach is increasing every year. All signs point to the need of a stronger authentication and access control. This is not an option anymore. Now we need to protect the data. We know that we are facing multiple threats. We have to find the right solution, one that is feasible, is scalable, and have no negative impact on your operations. So the next logical question is how to achieve this? Well, certificates are actually a great option for both user and machine authentication. Only users, machines, or devices with properly configured certificates will be able to access and operate on your networks. This is really important, especially in financial organizations where we have many people accessing our most sensitive data daily. There's always a trade-off between increasing security and the costs involved plus the burden on the end users. So unlike some authentication methods like biometrics or OTP tokens, there is no additional hardware necessary for certificate authentication. Certificates can be stored locally directly on the machines or devices. This not only will save you on cost, but it can also alleviate management pains around distributing, replacing, and revoking tokens. Using certificates is also an easy thing for the end users. After the certificate is installed with an Active Directory integration, for example, this can happen automatically. There's no further actions to be taken. When a user tries to log on or access a gated application or network, he will automatically be prompted to select his certificate from a list and will be able to access it. Most certificate-based authentication solutions come with a cloud-based management platform that also makes it easy for administrators to issue certificates to new employees, renew certificates, and revoke certificates whenever someone leaves the organization. Solutions that integrate with Active Directory can also make the enrollment and the issuance process even easier by enabling simply the auto-enrollment and the silent installation. One of the biggest benefits to using certificates is that unlike some solutions that only work for users like biometrics or one-time passwords, the same solution can be used for many endpoints. So certificates can be used not only for users, but also for machines, devices, and like I said, the growing devices and things that are part of the Internet of Everything. So it can be used for mutual authentication. So using certificates allows for mutual authentication, meaning both parties involved are identifying themselves, users, machines, and machines. Certificates are easily deployed to users and machines. Solutions that can integrate with Active Directory, as I have mentioned, make it even easier by allowing everything to be automated. Many enterprise applications and networks already support the X509 PKI certificate authentication natively. With just a few configurations changed, you can enable certificate-based authentication for many popular cases. For example, Windows 11, Google Apps, Salesforce, SharePoint, SAP, and access to remote servers via Citrix or SonicWall, for example. So, okay, it's clear that certificates can be a great solution to our authentication needs. But how do you actually get them to your end users and devices? There are two main options here. You can either run your own CA in-house, as many of you, I'm sure, are already doing, usually using Microsoft Certificate Services, or you can partner with a third-party CA, like GlobalSign. So using an in-house CA, you will have the costs of running, managing, and maintaining a local CA. You're also going to have to ensure that the key material is kept safe, the CA is most up-to-date with the industry standards, for example, key length, algorithms, among many others. If you use a third-party CA like GlobalSign, you have a couple options for deploying certificates. You can, of course, do it manually as a manual request and install the certificates individually. The majority of the CAs in the market actually offer already some type of volume certificate management solution, which often includes features like bulk enrollment, that you could possibly register multiple certificates at once. And GlobalSign, we also offer an Active Directory integration as an alternative to running your in-house CA. So that's without incurring the same costs nor the management. This offers the same benefits of leveraging the Microsoft Certificate Services, but allows you to outsource the PKI management, which can be extremely expensive and difficult to handle internally. So we'll take a closer look at some of the benefits of partnering with a third-party CA like GlobalSign. So the benefits of partnering with a software service identity provider are: no in-house PKI expertise is needed. We can lower the total cost of ownership. You will be complying with the baseline requirements. We have high availability and uptime. We count on disaster recovery. And it's a solution that has simple deployment and an automated lifecycle management. So it's free. It's one of the most often cited benefits to using an internal CA. But as I have mentioned, there are a lot of costs that are involved with running and maintaining your own CA that may negate any surface cost savings. So partnering with someone like GlobalSign means that we can manage all the PKI services for you. You don't need to devote your own people or resources to things like maintaining availability, creating and managing a certificate policy and practice statement, staying up to date and complying with baseline requirements, or obtaining external audits. The industry requirements are changing constantly. The SaaS identity provider like GlobalSign, we follow the industry requirement, allowing you to meet your security goals. Say you decide to partner with GlobalSign. So let's take a closer look at how you could use an Active Directory integration to automatically enroll and install certificates for users and machines. We're going to use GlobalSign's integration called Auto-Enrollment Gateway as an example in this case. So the first step, a domain connected endpoint, such as user, server, laptop, or other device, logs into the network for the first time. A request is sent to the Auto-Enrollment Gateway to check with the certificate templates that the CA will be using that are defined in the group policy. So using LDAP, the gateway checks Active Directory for the appropriate templates. The corrected templates are sent back through the gateway to the endpoint. The endpoint makes another request to the gateway for the appropriate certificates. The Auto-Enrollment Gateway validates the request and sends the request via APIs to GlobalSign SaaS CA. The certificate is sent back through the gateway and is installed directly on the endpoint. So this process is repeated for all domain connected endpoints. Since everything comes back to group policy, it's easy for administrators to control which users and machines receive which types of certificates. End users don't need to do anything, and the certificates are automatically renewed. So after the group policy is configured at Active Directory, there is no need for any manual input. The Auto-Enrollment Gateway is a software service that acts as a connector between the GlobalSign software service certificate services and the organization's Windows environment. The AEG also has support for single or multiple forests, and it's scalable according to your structure. So let's see what are the key advantages and benefits of AEG for a financial institution. It provides an easy and efficient way to deploy certificates across your entire organization, users, machines, devices. It supports a variety of user cases, user and machine authentication, S/MIME, and so on. Reduce the risks associated with managing, maintaining, and securing an internal PKI operation. GlobalSign manages the security, high availability, and CA operations, while organizations retain control of users and policies. Minimize total cost of ownership for PKI deployments. There is no need for extra staff support or internal expertise. The majority of the organizations already have an Active Directory. And with AEG, you can pretty much maximize your investment. So leveraging Active Directory and Microsoft certificate services means that you can seamlessly register and provision certificates to all domain connected objects based on group policies. Our enrollment and silent installation makes the certificate deployment process easy for IT administrators and end users. So along with the use cases that we have highlighted, here are some of the others which we are commonly seeing being addressed. S/MIME, to digitally sign and encrypt emails, is extremely important given the increasing threat of phishing attacks. Key archival and recovery, smart card logon, user authentication for users accessing company resources, Machine authentication, especially important because outside machines and devices accessing are a rising threat. Company resources like support BYOD, and domain controller authentication. So along with these user cases that we have highlighted, here are some of the others which are commonly seen being addressed. Workstation authentication, web server user authentication, Kerberos authentication, key recovery, as I mentioned, domain controller, and so on. So the certificate enrollment options are: you can use, for example, global sign automated enrollment methods like AAG, which offers an automated enrollment. The user automatically gets certificates installed, or you can also choose that they get prompt to install the certificates. It's just a pop-up. There's no need for manual enrollment. It's a two-steps process, and the auto enrollment from the endpoints are controlled by the access control lists. With services like Microsoft, the user has to actually manually go through the steps to get a certificate from the Microsoft MMC certificate to snap in. So after about 5 steps process, the user will have the certificate installed into his or her local certificate store or token. So another advantage that partnering with an international state like GlobalSign has is not only you have the automated enrollment option, but you're not limited to just Windows endpoints. You can also request certificates manually or via MDM like AirWatch for endpoints that are outside of the Windows environment. You also have the option of requesting a private hierarchy for authentication only use, for example, or a public hierarchy that it's like a trusted route where you're going to be issuing certificates from a public, valid, and trusted route if you are looking for implementing S/MIME, for example. So I use the AAG. So let's take a look at the differences between using a local CA and an international CA like GlobalSign. So with the internal CA, with the local CA, you have the inability of delegating roles and responsibilities. There's no reporting. There's limited logging capability, limited support without additional staff, introduces management and cryptographic appliances to your structure, and the certificates are not publicly trusted. So using partnering with a CA like GlobalSign, you are capable of delegating roles and responsibilities. You can issue detailed reports. We have rich logging capability, 24/7 operational support and security staffing plus infrastructure. There's no need for hardware management. And you're also going to be able to issue publicly trusted certificates for web servers, document signing, S/MIME, among others. Besides that, GlobalSign also has numerous features like MDM connectors. Certificates on mobile devices can be used for email encryption, signing, email authentication, VPN, Wi-Fi authentication, among others. So connecting your MDM platform to AAG also centralizes your certificate activity across all devices. Our solution was developed by ex-Microsoft crypto team. It's a client-led solutions, meaning some CAs offer similar integrations, but they do require the client to be installed on all Active Directory machines. The AAG doesn't. A streamlined implementation. Some CAs have a very manual process for many actions, including certificate revocation. So, passwords are weak, and users and devices cannot be trusted, as we saw. Do not keep your enterprise at risk. So replace the circle of distrust with certificate-based authentication. Well, I hope to have assisted you with some useful information today for your organization. And so I would like to take a moment and ask if you would like to receive some more information with regards to authentication of endpoints in general, internal user devices and machines, networks, also external user authentication, and identity and access management. So please, if you would like to receive more information, let us know. And we're going to be sending you more material with regards to this subject. Thank you very much for your presence. And once again, I would like to thank FIBA for this invitation.
Thank you, Lila. We're going to leave the poll up a little bit so we can get everyone's response if they would like to receive more information on this. As we leave this poll open, we welcome more questions from the audience. If you have any questions for Lila, we're going to do a quick Q&A now. I've received a couple, so let's get started. Lila, can authentication certificates be installed on any USB device?
Yes, so the authentication certificates, they can be installed on a token. Actually, even if you want to automate the provisioning, it is a feature of our AAG, for example, that the certificate can be installed directly on the user's machine device, or he can just be prompted as a pop-up saying, please insert your token on your machine, so the certificate can be installed. And automatically the certificate is installed directly to the token.
Perfect. Next question. Can we have a demo of this solution?
Yes, most definitely. So if you'd like to have a demo, just let us know, and we'll be happy to provide you a proof of concept.
Perfect. We have a couple more questions here. An audience, of course, don't be shy. What kind of devices are supported?
So pretty much the Global Sign solutions support all devices that are involved in the Internet of Everything. So laptops, desktops, servers, like routers, mobile devices, pretty much everything can be authenticated and should be authenticated today, given the fact that we have many outside and inside threats.
We have another question here. Is this a cost-effective solution for a network of, let's say, 850 users?
Yes, definitely. So it actually has a very low total cost of ownership. And like I said, there is no negative impact on your operations. And so it's definitely a cost-effective solution. Plus, most applications platforms already support natively the certificate-based authentication.
Okay. It seems those are all the questions that we have for now. Lila, is there anything else that you're asked a lot as an expert in this? It seems that our audience is a little shy, that maybe you could give us more information on.
Of course. So some of the main questions are the ones that you just asked about what type of devices that are, like supported, and as well as about the tokens for authentication. So like I said, our solution has a very low total cost of ownership. We actually take away the burden of managing your own internal CA, which is actually one of the other questions that we hear a lot. If, like companies are usually like, if we're already using a local CA, why should we, like deploy a solution that is like a solution like Global Signs? So as we have mentioned, the internal CA is not really free. And if you don't have the people with the correct expertise managing that CA or keeping up to date with the newest, like algorithms and key length and so on, according to the changes of the industry, you may be putting your organization at risk. You may actually be investing in something local and in spending a lot of money, but issuing certificates that are not going to be efficient because they are just not as secure as they should be. So that's another one of the questions. And I believe that's it. So like I said, if you would like to have any more information, please let us know, and we'll be happy to provide a demo or proof of concept if needed.
We have actually one more question. Yeah, perfect. Hold on. Let me open this up a little bit more so I can see the whole question. This is coming from Jay-Ann. Jay-Ann asks, can this be installed on personal computers for those who remote in?
What's that, sorry?
Can this be installed on personal computers for those who remote in?
Yes, and we actually we strongly advise that because that would actually control who is accessing from outside to your internal resources. So yes, it can be also installed on personal computers and devices.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Layla. For those attending today's webinar, you have her contact information there right on the screen. And also, we invite you to come see her in person at the CELICE event. You could visit our website at www.celice.com. After this webinar about next week, you'll be receiving a copy of both the recording of today's webinar and also the PowerPoint. And for those that would like more information, you'll be receiving it directly from Global Science. On behalf of FIBA and Lila, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everyone joining today's webinar.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.